Introducing the Artisan Cigaro, handmade yet affordable. So today I'm going to review a pen I was planning on reviewing close to 4 or 5 years ago. This is a pen that I originally got in my first batch of pens that I ordered from China. Because when I first got into using fountain pens and discovering the whole world of fountain pens from China, I think I ordered about 10 different pens from China. And one of them that arrived was this. This is the Jinhao 601, and back when I first bought it, I think this cost me only like, what, $3.50? And when I first got it, I thought it was strangely familiar to one of my other pens, which is this, a Parker Sonnet, and as I closely compared them, I came to the realization that, yeah, Parker, well-known brand, obviously there's going to be knockoffs from China. Now, back then, I was going to review that in my first couple reviews. The issue is, it's actually one of the first pens that I ever lost. You know, big deal, it was a $3 pen, but somewhere I lost it. I think I lost it at school, and as a result, I never bothered reviewing it. Until I went ahead and saw it on sale. I think it was for sale for like $2. No brainer. Go ahead and buy it. See if they have changed it, because I only bought this at the end of the last year, and after a 4 or 5 year gap, I was interested to see if Jinhao actually went ahead and improved it or even changed it. And after receiving this pen, I think it's pretty clear that this is either old stock pen, they're not producing them anymore, or they're producing them using their old manufacturing processes, because in a way, this is an old school Jinhao pen. And I mean that in both a good and bad way, which I'll get into in the video, because I think in about 2017, Jinhao brought out a whole new line of pens, which was the 900 series pens, and those were really good. They were a big game changer in Jinhao pens in terms of how they manufactured them, reliability, and just the whole design aesthetic of Jinhao. They also changed the nibs. I'm almost 100% sure that they changed the way that they made their nibs, which made them a lot more reliable, but changed the way how they feel. And a lot of my newer Jinhao pens from the 900 series range, a lot of the Jinhao nibs, they're a lot more reliable, they're a lot more buttery smooth, and I think that's because they added a little bit more iridium, well not iridium, but a little bit more tipping to their nibs, which makes it a little bit more easy to grind. They're usually a lot more buttery smooth, but the flex in them, they're a little bit more spongy. They flex a little bit under a little bit of pressure, but didn't flex all that much, which meant that the line that you got was always a little bit flexed, so there's not that much contrast, I guess. And while those nibs were really good, I always said they weren't that much fun to write with. This pen here, however, is more old school Jinhao. The feed is a little bit more unreliable, but the nib uses the old material and the old tipping, because this nib has a lot less tipping than the newer pens. Instead of it being a ball of tipping, it's more incorporated into the end of the nib, which means when they do get it right, you get very nice crisp lines, and the material means you can get some very nice line variation. This nib is actually very similar to the nib that was in my original Jinhao 599, and when I bought the replacement one a couple years later, they'd actually replaced it with a newer Jinhao pen, a nib with more tipping. So I was really excited to get one of these older style pens, because when they are perfectly grind, which this one here is, these are very nice to write with. They're very crisp, you can get some nice line variation, nice contrast, and the lines are a lot thinner than the newer pens. The issue is, though, the chance of you getting a wrecked nib is a lot higher in these older Jinhao pens. I remember when I first started buying these, I would have to order several of them just to get a pen that was usable. I'd have to swap some stuff out because of quality control issues, and this pen here is returning to that. I don't know if it's just older stock or older manufacturing processes, but this pen here, I ordered 2 of these. One of them had scratchiness issues, and this one here was pretty near perfect. So unfortunately, for whatever reason, you're still going to have to buy more than one if you want to get a perfect pen, or at least the chance of getting a perfect pen, which I think is a shame because I have a lot more fun writing with this than I do newer Jinhao pens. Another reason that I say it goes back to the older Jinhao roots is not just the quality control of the nib, but the quality control of the whole pen in general. For instance, the whole pen is made of, I think this is a brass cap that's been powder coated, and unfortunately, right underneath the clip is allowed to move a fair bit from side to side, and unfortunately, the powder coating behind it has been scratched away. Another reason why I think the quality control is lacking in this pen is because on the barrel where the powder coating is, there is a lot of chipping and missing powder coating that I saw straight out of the box, which I think is a bit of a shame because the quality, apart from the quality control issues, is very nice. I've always loved the style of the Parker Sonnet. I think it's very elegant and I think it's just very nicely understated, but it's also a very, very comfortable pen to hold, and it caps very nicely. They're very comfortable. They're very nice to use. But unfortunately, with these quality control issues, it just sort of takes away from that niceness of the overall pen. One other point I want to say before I get into the whole ergonomics of the pen. This is obviously a Parker Sonnet knockoff. There are so many Parker Sonnet knockoffs. There's this, there's the Bail, there's the proper fakes. And I just find it really interesting how there can be so many from China. I have here in my hand a proper fake. It says Parker on it, Parker Sonnet. And I've got to say, I'm almost 100% sure that these have to be made in the same factory. I can't prove it, but considering how these are pretty much identical, the caps are identical, the barrels are identical, apart from the bands being different, and the nibs being different, I gotta say, these have to be made in the same factory. I'm not sure why. I'm pretty sure there were rumors that Parker did have some tooling that they left in China, which would make sense if someone took that tooling and started producing these, fake pens. But I find it interesting how a couple years ago, the Parker Sonnet fakes were pretty much all you could get off China, and now you don't see them as much, which I guess is just just shows how much Chinese fountain pen brands have grown. Now, with all that aside, let's just get into the ergonomics of the pen. So capped, this pen is 28 grams, which is nice. This is a metal body fountain pen, and uncapped, it's 19 grams. So they're very, very weighty pens to use. Capped, it's going to be 13.1 centimeters long. Uncapped, it's 12.5 centimeters long. And posted, it's 15.1 centimeters long, which is very nice. This is a very comfortable pen to use, obviously, because it is a Parker Sonnet. And they've done a very good job in replicating it. One thing that really does make this pen distinct from Parker Sonnets is the grip. The grip is a knurled texture, which means that it's going to be pretty much non-slip. No matter what you're going to do, if you're going to have oily, greasy, slimy hands, this is not going to be a slippy grip. And I do like this grip. It's very nice. The knurled texture is pretty subtle. It's very nice, and it doesn't really interfere with you. It doesn't, scrape at you or anything. It's very, very nice. I know some people don't like it that much, but if you have greasy, oily hands, this might be a pretty nice choice for you. Apart from that, it's obviously a metal body fountain pen, and metal body fountain pens are good. The only thing you're going to have to watch out for is the powder coating. It can easily scratch, and when you scratch it, that's pretty much the end of it. The scratch is going to be there pretty much forever. The nib, I guess. I pretty much talked about the nib before. The nib is pretty good if you do get a good nib. That is the big precursor to all of this. The nibs are good. They're very nice if you get a good nib. If you get a bad nib, you're going to have issues. Apart from that, the reliability in these older ones is not as good as the newer ones. You're going to get more hard starts if you're unlucky, and you're going to have issues with flow. Just unreliability. You know, if you don't use the pen for a couple days, you know, you're going to get hard starts, stuff like that. And I think I'm going to get into a writing sample for this fountain pen. Okay guys, welcome to the writing sample for the Jinhao. This is the 601 with a fine nib. The ink that I'm using is Diamine Earl Grey, the R/Fountain Pen's chosen ink, and the paper is a Rhodia pad, and the material of the nib is obviously stainless steel. So, quick writing sample. And as you can see on that writing sample, I got a really good example of a Jinhao 601. These older nibs that Jinhao used to make were just really, really nice. They're just a lot more sharper in the stroke than the more modern ones. The more modern ones are they have a lot more tipping, and as a result, the lines that you get just aren't as sharp. These ones here are just so much nicer. Thankfully, the reliability was pretty nice in the writing sample, and you know, no issues whatsoever. The only thing that I could fault this nib for is a tendency for some Chinese pens is, whilst they might be smooth, their tipping feels very grippy, like you're running it over like a rubberized surface. It's just very, very grippy for some reason. That's obviously not the worst thing. You know, I'm using this pen and I'm using it very nicely, so it is something that I want to note. In terms of flex, yeah, you can get some flex from these older nibs. The newer nibs, as I said, are a bit more spongy. You know, you can flex it a little bit more easily, but you can get some very, very nice contrast with these older nibs. In terms of flow, you can also get some nicer flow from these, but they're not as reliable. And in terms of it being a high flow pen, like, this is a Chinese pen, it's a fine nib. You're not going to get anything remarkable out of it, but, you know, it seems to lay down some decent amount of ink for a fine nib. In terms of reverse writing always seems to be really good for Chinese pens. Western pens just are terrible at reverse writing, but Chinese pens are always really, really nice. And that is the writing sample for the Jinhao 601. Okay, so let's get into the summary of this pen. And let me just say, this is a good Chinese fountain pen. It's a good example of the good stuff China used to make. And if you do happen to get a good version of this, it's probably a very good beginner pen. The issue comes in with it being a good example of what Jinhao used to make. The reliability is just not as good as what they make now, and the quality control just isn't as good as it is now. If I was making this review 4 or 3 years ago, I think that I would definitely say that this is a good pen, you should go out and buy one. You know, top 3 pens from China. But the year is 2020, and Chinese pen companies have come a very, very long way. And pens like this is just something that I don't really think I should recommend in my top 10 anymore. It just isn't. Nowadays, Chinese pen companies don't have to blatantly rip off Parker or Pilot or whatever. They can make their own designs, I guess, that are inspired by some Western pens. They've just come a long way in what you can get for under $5, and that includes reliability, quality control, nibs, you name it. So if I was to say, if I was to sum up this pen, yes, you can go buy one. You're going to have to probably buy 2, just in case you get a dud version of it, because the chances of getting a dud are pretty high. If you do end up getting a good version, they are very nice pens, but at the end of the day, there are much better pens that you can buy. This is a pen that should just be relegated to the past. And with that, thank you very much for watching.